What's going on, everybody? I'm Keith, host of Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas, where 4 to 5 of my brothers give their perspective on national as well as local news. We touch on some trending hot topics as well as culturally relevant news. We also get a chance to dive into some deep core conversations. Check us out live every other Monday at 7 p.m. You can find us on Just Our Thoughts on YouTube live at Facebook. Also, please don't forget to follow us on IG, JOT with the Fellas. What's good, fellas?
What up? What up? What up? What up?
What up? What up? What up? How's everybody, man? How's everybody making out today?
Everybody's good, man.
Good. It was a beautiful day.
Beautiful day out there. Relax.
For some reason, I can't hear you guys too good. Everything good? How was everybody's weekend?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Anything special?
I just drive by, man, to my mom's, man. My mom is still kind of, I want to say, quarantining. She just don't want nobody in the crib. So we went past and picked up some platters, man, of a little turkey, a little ham, some greens, little mini Thanksgiving dinner, man. So that's what we did.
That's cool.
Nice. Yeah. Had a few family over. Some of my little guy's cousins that could jump on the trampoline with him. Just a few, just a small get together. I got the gazebo outside, so we was outdoors and on the sun porch, eating, laughing, singing karaoke on my sister's microphone. So she was prepping for Ron versus the Elements. Kind of fell asleep a little early.
Was you out there bouncing with the kiddies?
Oh yes, I love it, man. I was the biggest kid on that trampoline, boy. I was trying to propel them into the next yard,
into the next dimension. Hey, what's up, Kat? How you doing, Kat? What's going on, Rob? How you feeling, Rob? And Shay,
what's up, Shay? Nash.
Say hi. We saying hi. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas. Y'all check out that the verses last night with Ron with the Ozzy Brothers and Earth, Wind and Fire, the Elements.
Yes.
What's y'all thoughts on that?
The beginning. Well, I didn't catch it from the very beginning, but where I did catch it from, I turned it on about 9:00, and Steve Harvey need to shut up. I mean, because like I see some things said about it today. Like, yo, does he have any friends that he could have told these stories to before? Because it's like he's telling them like come on, man, we don't need to hear all that. Just let the legends get up there and do what they do. And but I thought it was a little slow until they got to the break where they said, okay, us old men, we gotta go to the bathroom. So once they
prostate baby,
so once they came back and they got into it, and where they just had D Nice roll their joints back to back, and they got up and started singing.
Good.
That's when, in my opinion, it took off, and it was like a concert, and the B-79. Ron was trying to get his shit on, man.
Yeah,
I heard he's 79 and a half.
Yeah, and I mean, his voice ain't what it used to be, and neither is my man Philip Bailey.
Yeah,
but they was trying, and
they did a good job. I enjoyed them, man.
Just to hear him try was I was loving it. I
definitely enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it,
and to be 4 hours, I was loving it to stay up that long.
I watched the whole thing.
I did too. I even watched when the video ended and they came back on like a minute later.
Okay, I missed that. I didn't see that part.
They did an encore.
Basically, it was like a couple minute encore. They was getting.
Was that a chinchilla? Was that chinchilla or mink that Ron had?
That, from what I seen,
I thought it was velvet.
Nah, you know what? That looked like the chinchilla that Denzel had on in American Gangster. It looked just like that chinchilla.
Frank Lucas chinchilla.
Frank Lucas.
That's the one that fits.
He looked like a clown
Man, I had a good time. I just sat up and I watched it. I'm a huge Earth, Wind, and Fire fan, so I just enjoyed the elements, man. I was sitting there. We were sitting there, and I was waiting for September. I'm like, yo, what's up in September? Like, why didn't I came that? It was crazy for me. The elements they went back to back to back to back to back with hits. Like, and they could have kept going.
Right.
I know, some people, they're a big Ron Isley fan. I'm cool with his stuff, but for me, the instrumentals, man, Wind and Fire was able to the table, man. Just listening to them trumpets sing. Oh man, thing, man.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
They asked them, like, how many albums you got? They like, I don't know.
They didn't know.
How many how many platinums you got?
28
platinums. I don't know. They up hanging on the wall, so you look at about 28. And that's when you know you the man.
Yeah.
They just throw them out there like, look, this is what we do. It's just what we do.
That's what we do. A lot of people said this is the best verses ever. What's up,
Cat?
What I heard. Cat Page said the same thing.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
What's going on, Tamika Wilcox, Alyssa Wiles, Rob? Thanks for joining us.
What up?
That's our thoughts with the fellas. I am your host, Keith Hall, where we talk about national topics. We talk about national news, local news, as well as trending topics and current events. We also touch on culturally relevant news. We also dive into some core conversations, and I can't do this without myself. This is the Fellas platform, and I got today with me my man EB, my man Pops and Pans, EB
what up?
Capital.
What's going on? What up, fellas? What up?
Everything good, E?
Yes, sir. Ready for a good show tonight? Ready for a good show? Yeah, man, I'm ready for a vacation, good brother.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm trying to do one with the fellas, and then I'm gonna do one with the family. So
okay.
We're gonna try to make that happen, fellas. We putting it out.
Y'all off this week, man. How y'all go back to school and then go right back out?
Hey, INF, that's a good question, man. There was an announcement that went out, man, that hey, if you travel, make sure that you quarantine for 10 days afterwards. So good. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens.
Wow.
So Ward Heen, what's going on, Ward?
What's up, man? What's going on,
man? You
fellas?
enjoy your weekend, brother?
I'm gonna say partly. My Saturday was a little rough, just like my man on Lethal Weapon 2. Well, actually, it was on Lethal Weapon 3. They fuck you with the cell phones. But I got a little resolution, but on Sunday, yes, I went over mom's. My sister cooked again, and I went over there, broke bread with them.
Yes.
Kicked the dog around, and we had a good, and then I had to rush back home.
We found you watching some basketball too, Ward. That was
Ward. That's what's up, Ward. You're a football fan.
Right. I turned, man. For some reason, I just turned the game on. Some said, "Yo, watch tonight. Watch it tonight."
Right.
And I'm glad I did because
it was a good game.
UCLA was balling.
Right.
Gonzaga was balling.
Yes.
And at that point, I didn't care who won. I was kind of pulling for UCLA, but at that point, the way both of them played, man, it was like, yo, whoever wanted the most is going to take it. Whoever, and just like somebody else, I seen a commentator say, last shot, whoever had the ball, that's going to be it.
That's what's up. Shakur giving you more. What's up,
the professor.
What up, man?
What's going on, man?
Up?
How's everything, bro?
I'm an enthusiast of life. All is well, man. Listen, I ain't got no bad reports to put out there, man. All is well.
That's good.
Family's good. Back to work. My little guy was a little upset because spring break was last week. Back to the books today. So he's in person 4 days a week. So things have been going well so far. But when you come back from spring break, right? You ain't looking forward to really going back. So it took a lot more encouragement for the young man this morning.
They're encouraging, huh?
Hey, Katie, what you got going on, man? With Spin? What you got? Anything coming up this week?
Yeah, I got to pop up at the Croc 5:30 on Wednesday evening. It's going to be 70 degrees and sunny, man. So we're going to get a nice sweat in on Wednesday, man. 5:30. We're going to spin it out for 45 minutes, man. Nice, good sweat.
Savage Spin.
You will sweat in places you ain't never sweat before in your life. Nasty.
Hey, the Professor Warheem E-Dub, and I'm your host, Keith Hall. If you can, go to our YouTube page on Just Our Thoughts, subscribe and like. It's free.
Yeah.
Just go to our page, Just Our Thoughts on YouTube. Go to our Just Our Thoughts fan page on Facebook. Subscribe. Check our content out. Share our content. It's some great conversations that we have. We've had Reverend Nikki Brown come talk about Black women in leadership. We've had, we've had Dr. Paul
Hopkins.
Right. Dr. Paul Hopkins talked to us about the holistic approach to health and medicine. We've had my man, Dr. Schubert Perot, talk to us and had his conversations about Black men and our health. So please, we've even had Melissa Wiles and, hang out with us with celebrating our women and, what she got going on in her platform. We've had Lorraine Vaughn and Stacey Holman, talk to us about women and their relationship, and how they build their relationship and how there's certainly a foundation for each other. So tonight, I got my man, Dr. George James, who will be joining us. Dr. George James Jr. is a licensed marriage family therapist. He's a senior staff therapist, reoccurring expert guest on radio, television, and online programs, including The Today Show, CNBC, Good Day Philadelphia, NBC 10, iHeartRadio, Ebony Magazine, and so many more. Dr. James was awarded in 2019 the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapist Excellence in Media Award. Some of James' innovative program services include, I can't read this, my handwriting, launching a new mental weakness, wellness and therapy initiative for athletes and entertainers. He touches on anxiety, depression. He touches on adultery, racial identity, lack of communication, and work and career. So we got Dr. James on, my man, Dr. James, the man of all things Villanova's finest, coming to hang out with us tonight. What's going on, Dr. James? What's up, George?
Hey,
Dr.
fellas.
James.
What's up, Doc?
What's good?
Hey.
Good, fellas. Thanks for having me. Look, I was just gonna chill and just let y'all just talk and vibe. I'm good. But no, for real, man. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it.
George, I thought it was important. We thought it was important collectively to bring you on, to tap into your experience, to tap into your professionalism, dealing with families, dealing with relationships, specifically during this last year. The challenges that everyone had gone through during this last year, being quarantined together, in a house together. We've had many conversations of what it looked like to have kids, who don't like being home, now have to be home with, family members that, aren't that don't have their best interests at heart. So, one of the things that we talked about in our conversation is to bring you on, an expert who can talk about some of these challenges, some of these struggles that not only the kids, but adults have had with their relationships, marriages, and the different family dynamics that happen, and to be able to speak on that. So we definitely want to thank you for, taking that time out. I know that you are hard to ink in. So we definitely appreciate that. So if you can, what are some of the challenges during this last year, George, that you've seen different and outside of the norm when it comes to the family dynamics?
Yeah, I don't know how many of y'all got the text message with that. It's like a black guy and he's being quizzed. It says like, you're about to go into quarantine and you could either A, stay with your wife, or B. He's like B, right? Even before, right. And it was like a joke that came out early, right? About like how like for some guys or some people are like not really looking forward to like being locked up or quarantined with, whoever they're with. And it was funny. It was like a joke. But in my world, it's been the reality, right? Where people have either recognized that they are with somebody that they want to be with. That like, all right, whatever we've been through, like this quarantine is letting us know, like this pandemic and everything else that we had to go through this past year, you really the one. All right, you you my everything, you my, I got your back, whatever, we could ride or die. Or people have been like, nah, it's time. Right. And unfortunately, like that's where it's been. Like there's divorces have increased. People have been able, like, look, I ain't doing it no more. I'm not putting up with it. And this goes either way. And so I've seen that a lot where, you know, houses are they're either coming together or they're being divided, because it's been a lot of pressure when you're just now through the pandemic, through stress, maybe money issues, whatever it is, you're just like all in. And so some of that also trickles down to the kids, right? Like having to do all of that, plus still do virtual, plus trying to figure out work. It's been a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, just all over.
So George, what are some of the, I guess, strategies and coping mechanisms that could be laid out, that could be given, you know, or that you've shared? I'm sorry, that you've shared, you know, for those that had this tremendous time locked up in the house, you know, dealing with personalities that, you know, that go against their belief system.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I've been saying is that, you know, often in families of color, often with, you know, sometimes Black folks and sometimes really like, you know, Black men, we don't want to admit that there's like mental health stuff that we deal with. And one of the things I've been saying is that, like, if you've never felt anxiety before, if you've never been depressed before, you felt it in this past year.
Right. Yes.
Felt some type of something this past year. So I think the first part is us just admitting, like, this is just real. It's okay. It's not, it doesn't mean you're weak or something's wrong with you. It's just real to be able to say, I was a bit nervous about some stuff. I found myself maybe not sleeping through the night. I found myself like just dealing with a lot, feeling low, feeling overwhelmed. That's normal because we all been in the same situation.
That's right.
And so I think it starts with that, being able to admit like what's going on. That would be my first thing. And then the second thing is, if you're with somebody, at best, try to work as a teammate. I mean, you know, I heard y'all talking about the game earlier. I don't think you'd be successful and not work as a team.
Right.
Oftentimes, like, for whatever reason, we working as enemies versus as teammates. And like that could take you out real quick.
George, what is it about that, man, that we don't want to admit to needing that help? Is there something about that? I think it just stands out when we, you know, just talking about, we know this individual needs help, but the admittance to need taking that step to make a call or something. What is it about that we don't take that step, that next step to get the help that we need?
It's a man thing.
Unfortunately. Yeah, man. Like, I think like we've learned like from an early age, like this whole thought of like all these different things of what it means to be a man, right? Especially with the fellas, right? And a lot of that, I think, is just, my opinion, wrong, right? Like all these things that we learn, that if you're a man, you're the strongest. If you're a man, you don't cry. If you're a man, like, it's all like, we could all list all the different things that we learned growing up. And some of us would probably have the same things. And one of those things is the thought that you need to figure it out on your own. But like, I mean, you could look at, I mean, y'all was talking about the verses last night. You could look at any sports team, any artist. Nobody gets to the top by themselves. Somehow we feel like as men, we should live life on our own, fight every battle, overcome every obstacle on our own. When that's not the reality. And I think when it comes to being, you know, dealing with mental illness, being overwhelmed, anxiety, depression, we take that same mindset that we got to figure it out. When we all need counselors, guides, mentors, somebody to help us out when we get jammed up, because it's a guarantee we're going to get jammed up at some point in life.
Somebody.
Well, I mean, on that note, it was like, you know, I don't know, I guess kind of sometimes we don't feel as though we want to bring somebody into some of the pain that we may be feeling. You know, just like, you know, when I went through my divorce, it was like, you know, my mother and they were like, oh, you know, we can help. I'm like, no, I'm going to handle this myself because I got into it myself. I'll get out of it myself.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I mean, I think that's true, that there are some things like we need to figure out. Right. At the same time, like, I don't know about y'all, but like I've been in situations where, like, if somebody needed support or help, like they would hit me up, they'd call me, and I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll figure it out. I'll be there for you. And sometimes when it's somebody else, it's easy to say like, I'll show up for you. But when it's my turn, when I need something, I start thinking, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to I don't want to do all this other stuff. But like, I just help them out.
Right.
So like, it's okay. Like, I think this to be able to receive, to accept, because sometimes I just need somebody to talk to. I just need somebody to complain with. I just need somebody to help me figure out the next step. I just need some support. And it doesn't mean that I feel like I'm less of a person if I do that.
Gotcha.
On that,
Hey,
on
Doc,
that, on
real
that
quick, I have
note,
a quick question for you, Doc. After you mentioned admitting some of the things that go on in your life, what can you say to some of the people out there, some of the things that families have done that has, made it successful, some of the things that they've done from a fun aspect that said, wow, this helped us get through this?
Yeah, I was just talking about it with my family, like, and this was one of the things that I had to implement even in my own life during this pandemic, is the thought of like, we could just work, we could just keep going, right? And for me, that was the case, right? Pandemic and the work I do, more people were looking for support, and so that meant more hours.
Right.
And I realized real quick that like, I wasn't getting up, I wasn't eating, I wasn't spending time with the family. I'm home, but still not spending time. So I had to put some boundaries on my schedule. And I'm like, I had to make sure at a consistent dinner time. I had to figure out like, when are we gonna like hang out and do things on the weekend or during the week if we had time. So I saw a lot more families going on bike rides, going on playing in the backyard. And if you have the space, people were using it. If you didn't have the space, people were like, look, I could still go for a walk, even if I can't, like, if I don't even have a backyard. So I saw a lot more people being creative. People hopscotch. I mean, do whatever you want to do. Like, look, you can find a place to like you could get a ball and work on your dribble. Like, I saw people doing more things that help them to say like, we're going to create memories.
Gotcha.
But when people didn't do that, I think that's where they got stressed and overwhelmed and started to take it out on each other.
Yeah. Dr. G, Dr. George. Just to bring back Ward's point that for people that are in distress, that need help, but want to figure things out on their own, want to try and take the matter into their own hands and try to provide a solution on their own. Like you brought up, we need a team, we need partners, people that are supportive in our circles that will kind of give us and help us navigate through difficult times. What do you say to those that cannot effectively communicate that they are in distress? Because as men, like you brought up, the stereotypical things about masculinity, not letting people see us cry, not because these things kind of intimate a weakness within us. What do you say to grown behind men that can't effectively communicate when we're in distress, when we need help? Because, sometimes when we don't do that, we lash out and become abusive, or we just tend to just walk away from the situation, the family, and leave things totally unresolved to fester into something else. How do you teach grown men or even teenage young men? How do they effectively communicate when they are in a crisis or distress?
Yeah, man, I think that's a really good question. And, I see it, we probably all seen it a lot. And I think one of the challenges is like, we have to have people in our squad that can can speak truth to us. I mean, I imagine the way that, you all even, got together to do this is because y'all tight, y'all been around, y'all know each other. And you have to have somebody who is in your circle who could just say, yo, dude, you're tripping right now. Or like, hey, or let's talk. Or like, look, I know you don't want to talk like this. And I got friends of mine, a good friend of mine, it was roommates. He would always laugh and like, yo, stop putting me on the couch, man. Like, stop. Right? And that would be like, because we would just have real conversation.
Right.
And so you have to have people, and I've been fortunate where like as much as I think I know, as much as I think I've learned, I'll go and talk to one of my mentors or one of my advisors or the people who speak to me in my life, and they'll drop something. I'm like, yo, I did not think about it that way. Like, I remember, like, you know, my dad passed in 2016, and I remember just talking about, you know, my father and like the loss and what that meant for me. And, you know, it was actually, you know, the pastor of my church, and he just shared something to me about, like, you know, my father grew up in Jamaica and he's a farmer, and he just said, like, oh man, like he has to be so optimistic to be a farmer. That just blew my mind. Like it shifted how I thought about my dad just in that one comment. Because to plant something, you got to believe it's going to grow, right? And so the thought of like, oh, I guess he is optimistic. That made me start thinking about a whole bunch of other things. And what I'm saying is that sometimes we are limited in our own mind about how to do something, right? If we just leave to our own devices, we will miss stuff. That's why we have counselors, friends, other people who can speak to us. So I'm saying that because we have to have somebody who's going to speak to us. Hopefully we can recognize it ourselves, right? When you're bleeding, sometimes you might miss it. But if you look down and you see there's a lot of blood, like look at the evidence. Are you ruining relationships? Are you ruining your children? Are you ruining your job situation? That's evidence that, yo, you need to do something right now because you're in a bad spot. Other than that, unfortunately, what I've seen is that sometimes people don't realize that they need to go get help until it's at rock bottom in a bad situation. And they have no choice.
George, you just mentioned when there's blood around, when relationships, there's a big break in the relationship. You mentioned that when an individual looks around, like they've destroyed so much, you know, whether it's work, whether it's their friendships, whether it's their relationship with family members. What is it about those that are in a situation where, and I've talked to many, where they stay in a bloody situation?
Yeah, you know, like there are lots of reasons. Like one of the things that I've learned in like doing therapy is that there are reasons why we do things. And I'm not even going to go all the way to the abusive stuff, right? Like I'll talk about that in a second. But just to say, like, you know, why do we stay in a job that we say to everybody we hate, right? I hate this job. We'll talk about it left and right. But why do we say? Because it's a paycheck, because it's insurance, because it's something else that we say we rather deal with that and hold on to it. The same thing with relationships or family. We'll say like, all right, there's something about this. Maybe it's like somebody will stay in a relationship and say, well, it's better than not having a relationship, or this is the father or parent of my child. Like whatever, we'll have some reason that will stay in it, even though it's unhealthy. The other side, when it's abusive or harmful, sometimes we don't know what to do, and the trauma of that makes us like really scared, and we just we feel like we need to stay and find a path out, which is once again why we need support and help to get out.
That's right. One of the other things, myself and Ward, when Keith and EB was absent, we kind of touched on Kirk Franklin and his son. We delved into a lot of the intricacies of that taped audio conversation between father and son that a therapist, they said, was present for. But one of the things that I think the pandemic has revealed with a lot of families is that there's a lot of hurt surrounding betrayal and mistrust of family members, if it's between fathers and sons or mothers and daughters, whatever the role and relationship. I think one of the things that has highly been spotlighted is that family members just really have a problem trusting each other for whatever reason, past personal relationships going wrong in the family. What's your thoughts on, you know, just the relationships inside families and the mistrust and the betrayal? Because when we was talking about Kirk and his son, one of the things me and Ward talked about is that that's an ultimate betrayal for a son to take a personal situation outside and make it public to embarrass or slander another family member. Although that person might be toxic, you know, the betrayal of one to take family business outside of the relationship to embarrass or hurt one another. What do you see about that issue in the family, about just the mistrust and betrayal that occurs in families?
Yeah, a couple of things, right? I think that if we're honest, first level, as parents, as I'm a parent, I got 2 young kids, 10 and 8. It's a guarantee that I'm going to do something that's going to harm them, right? Unintentionally, not because I want to. There's just going to be something that happens throughout the course of their life that might cause some pain for them, emotional pain, right? And I'm going to have to find ways to kind of reconcile that, or hopefully build enough connection and community with them and love with them that they feel they can talk to me about that and work through it. Because it's just normal as humans, we do things, we're not going to be perfect.
Right.
On top of that, sometimes we can have our own issues and our own drama that now impacts our ability to be parents and to be effective. And so if we're honest, there is a lot of betrayal. There is a lot of hurt. There is a lot of chaos. There is a lot of drama and trauma in our families. And too often we don't talk about it, or too often we don't find the right place to talk about it. That was my kind of concern and issue with what came out, is that I read something about where the son said, I'm just going to play this part because I wouldn't play the rest of it because it would be hurtful to my father. It was already
yeah, exactly.
Right. You already
exactly.
put it there.
You already put it out there.
So like, it's hard to see it. Now, maybe he felt so backed up against the wall or felt like nobody's hearing him, but that was an extreme measure to get you to feel like you had to go to get your voice heard. And that caused a lot of pain that becomes really hard. And then it makes you think about, well, what is from my perspective, what is his pain and what he's going through? Because like you said, there's a lot of pain in our families and a lot of ways that is not dealt with. No matter what your stature is, no matter how many degrees you have, no matter how close to God you are, there's some things that we do in our families that are hurtful. And sometimes as parents, we don't even take what I believe is a responsibility to say, that's my bad, right? That I've done that. Like just this morning, like my family and I were up and we were just, starting our day off. We're really trying to be committed and starting to connect with God in the morning. And I was thinking about work. I was like checking my phone and my 10-year-old, right, in her own way, checked me, right? And old school would be, don't you ever come at me. Don't you ever come at me.
Right.
But I was like, right, in my mind, in my heart, I knew I was wrong. Right. And like my big thing is I have to model that to say like, right, hey, family, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been doing that at this time. Because what am I saying to you? I'm saying that it's not important, that this is not okay. And I have to be willing to face it. So that's what I'm saying. There's hurt and pain in our families, but we're not facing it. We're not owning up to it.
Right. The inability of family members to kind of lessen themselves when it comes to conflict and confrontation. Just like you were saying, like your youngin checked you, for the disrespect of being on your phone.
Daddy, get off that phone, Daddy.
Right. And you could have responded in a totally different way that may have caused some emotional hurt, like you talked about, but you respected, you kind of honored what she said. And I think that doesn't happen with, not just in friend relationships, but in familial relationships where people won't back down from one another for whatever reason to kind of lessen themselves in order, because it just seems like one person at least has to lessen themselves in order to bring some type of resolution to the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to, what we said earlier about this, all the different things we've learned about, at least for the fellas, to be a man. And like what's in all of that is like I'm being soft, right?
Yes.
Right. Like, and all back, I don't know about y'all, but all the way back to like, don't step on my sneaks, right? To like, right, like that's something, right? Just like even like anything like that, where the thought is I gotta make sure you know I'm not going to be the one that you should mess with. And in some situations, that is necessary.
Yes.
Not in all situations. And I think sometimes we take that, we don't want to step down or recognize that we are wrong and admit to it, because we don't want to be seen as soft. We don't want to be seen as like the one that you could get that away with. Like, and it continues with our relationships, with our kids, with our community, with our jobs, just all over.
Yeah.
Right.
George, one question I have, and we just to circle back briefly, we talked about during this time frame with our youth, the virtual learning, the difference in their learning style, not being able to get the same social skills that they've been accustomed to over the last several years, being in a classroom and, interacting with different teachers. So, my thought or my question is, how do you think that shows up in years to come for not only our adults, but specifically for the youth, school age children? Just a lack of this last year.
Yeah, I think that I think there's going to be some separation anxiety, and rightfully so. I think from both sides, like we've spent more time together, right? Whether it's been the greatest time or the real tough or horrible time, we've been together. And so we think like we're all going to celebrate, like, okay, good, bye, go do what you need to do, right? Like, oh man, like this feels different and this feels weird, or how do I readjust, or that's going to be there. I think just overall there's some, I mean, let's look at this past year. It's not only have we had a pandemic, but like we've known that unfortunately Black folks and people of color and racism is real, and we probably experienced that at some point in our life. But a lot of the world has now realized that this is something that we've been talking about. And so there's been an increased awareness around it. And so talking about having to have conversations with your kids about why someone was killed or why somebody was murdered, on top of them being virtual, on top of you being stressed, on top of like elections, it's a lot. And so I think when we look further down the road, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment. I think anything that I've seen in my work is that more people are going to have the conversation that mental health and dealing and taking care of our mental health is real and needs to be on the calendar, needs to be what we do. We need to do self-care. We need to talk more. We need to do those things because some of the things will affect our kids. And some of our kids will bounce back like they usually do because they're resilient. But some will need some extra support, some extra coaching, some extra love, some extra patience, as it's not going to be just a quick, like, all right, we're good.
I think it looked like Kevin is showing some extra love right now with the little ones.
I did that. Hey, Dr. George, I'm glad you brought up the point about how the pandemic has exposed a lot of systemic ills, many of which have already been prevalent, but just glaringly have come out through the pandemic, one of which is on trial for right now with the George Floyd trial. 1 year ago, we all witnessed a public lynching by law enforcement. Some said for 88 minutes and 46 seconds. Now we know it was over 9 minutes that Derek Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd's neck. I found myself, and I made a post on Facebook, and a lot of people agree with me. I found myself unable to watch this trial, to listen to George Floyd's voice, or listen to these witnesses, or to watch the video being played from every different angle that you can possibly imagine. I just could not bring myself to watch any of the proceedings of the trial, hardly any of the news updates. And these are some of the things also I had to explain to my 8-year-old as well about what has transpired with George Floyd. I just found myself just being, on a personal level, being re-traumatized. by this George Floyd trial that I can't really deal or cope with it. My only mechanism to deal with it is to change the station. What do you say to the black families specifically that are being re-traumatized by this trial that it's a necessity? In some ways I feel like white America, specifically white America, needs to see every angle of that tape over and over again. But what do you say to black families that feel like I do? Even my 8-year-old son, when one part came on and I mistakenly had it on, he threw the cover over himself to kind of, and express to me how horrible that was, but it's a real thing that our young black boys have to have knowledge of in this present time that we're living in. But what do you say about just, I'm feeling like victimized all over again, traumatized all over again, helpless, because I feel like I'm right there on the street corner, begging for this man's life, and to have to deal with it all over again. Just, it sets certain alarms off in my mental that I can't deal with.
Yeah, I mean, Kev, I think what you're saying is what a lot of people are feeling, and actually what a lot of people need to do, right? Like, I have purposely not been trying to be as in tune and up to date. And the thing with my job, I try to be at least aware of what's going on, even if I'm not fully in, right? Like, so I knew the verses was on, but I had other stuff to do. But I need to know enough because it might pop up randomly, right? I know about, like, what, for me, the way I work, I need to know, like, about what happened in sports and even the trial. And I have some situations because that could be the trauma that a client brings in, and to be there with them. But I also have to protect myself. And I think that what I've been saying to people is that sometimes you do need to change the channel. Sometimes you do need to just go do something else that is enjoyable to you. Go watch a show that you actually like, makes you laugh. Go do a puzzle, something else, because we know we're going to hear it one way or another, right? And I think what happens for some people is that it is so intense, it is so overwhelming, but it also just pulls people in, and they can find themselves watching minutes, hours after hours of all this stuff, and it is traumatizing. I think the one of the things that I see about it is a sense of feeling powerless, right? Like the sense of having to see it and you can't do anything about it. And I think about the people who are either watching or recording and not being able to do anything about it. And like you said, now we got to hear all this all over again. And for my family and I, what was hard was that, we talk about race, but we wasn't trying to go into all of that stuff with the 7 and 9-year-old at the time. But because of that, we had to have a real conversation. Before I was anticipating having that. And the reason why our philosophy is that we want to be the first source. We want to be the one that's going to talk to you about it first, be able to answer whatever questions might come up. And like, do I want them to go through that again? No. So I'm not trying to like, and it could happen easily. You could be watching like PBS, and all of a sudden there's an update. Like Logan, boom, right? Like, you're not expecting
Cartoon Network. There's an update,
right? Later tonight, I'm like, thank you. That's all I needed right now. And so I feel like it is about self-care. It is traumatizing and re-traumatizing, and it is thinking about what's best for your family, because there are some people who would say, no, I want my kids to know about this. We need to have conversations about it. We need to go in on this because that could be you.
Yeah, because that's kind of how my family was. It was like we dealt with harsh reality, and I've always kind of lived by that myself, is don't coddle, don't sugarcoat it, tell me what it is, because I rather deal with the reality than some sugar-coated bullshit that I just rather see it for face value and what it is. you know, and it's just like we've known all this stuff has been going on for a long time, you know, just like after the civil rights movement, none of that shit stopped. And it's, you know, and I've been aware of it, you know, and then because of, you know, everybody still jokes about me still watching Sanford and Son and Good Times and all that. They were talking about those issues. Yes, it was put in a comedic sense, but they were still speaking the truth and what was going on. So those things I still hold dear to me, and I rather have harsh reality. And you know, I just my 2 cents. Yeah, I wish I could watch more of this trial, you know, dealing with my job. No, I can't sit there and watch it. And then when I do get home, there's not much to watch because it's year end. But I think we should pay more attention to it, because I think this is the time where, you know, the attention should be spent more on it than like from back in 92 with Rodney King, because we all knew exactly what was going to happen.
Right.
You know, but right now it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I you know, the attention should be spent.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is that, like, I think there are a lot of people who feel the way you do. It's like, no, I want to know all the facts. And as upsetting as it could be, some people are like, no, I want to hear what the other side is going to say.
Right, exactly.
Because the way they could paint and have painted George Floyd as a criminal, as this deviant, when like they wouldn't do that for other people, like says like, oh wow, that's how you talk about people, that's how you're going to shape it. And for some people that allows you to say, see, this is what we've been talking about. This is exactly the conversations people have. Once again, it's about figuring out what's best for you and doing what you need to do.
Right.
George, I have a question, and I know we have a few minutes left, but I do have a question. One of the things that you mentioned was self-care. You know, I recently, and I talked to a couple of fellas about it, started meditating, and it is wonderful. It is such a great blessing to my life right now. But you talk about self-care, and when we talk about men, you know, the get up, you're gonna be all right, but your knee got a bone sticking out of it with blood gushing all over, you know, the everything is going to be fine type of taking the lead. You're the strong man. And then when you talk about self-care as an older man, you know, what are some approaches to help or to assist men, you know, specifically men of color, to be more open to, you know, taking in that self-care, that it's okay to, you know, go get a pedicure, that it's all right to go get a manicure, that to get in a massage, you know, that's dope. You know what I mean? Because you definitely, it's part of self-care. And, you know, when we talk about men of a certain age, you know, traditionally, that's not what we did. We, you know, they sit back and listen to some music or get a drink.
Right. Don't let your panties drop.
What'd you say?
Don't let them panties slip out.
So the, you know, what is the approach, and, you know, when it comes to that, in terms of, you know, fellas being open to, you know, to that self-care aspect of that that we need, specifically during this time with everything freaking going on, you know, us being able to take care of ourselves. George, can you help me out with that, brother?
I mean, my thing about self-care is that, like, I think that when you do that, when you do those things, it allows you to be fresh. Like if you are somebody who's a creative, if you're somebody who's trying to develop things, if you're somebody who has to be just on top of things, whatever that might be, being able to have some self-care, to have appropriate breaks, allows you to come back and like you are in it and ready. And I seen it in my work. I used to have at least maybe 6 to 8 weeks. I'm having a break, a day off, or something, right? That allows me to recharge. But then the pandemic hit, and I had to figure it all out again, because my gear, my motto, what I grew up learning is to work, right? Like that's what it is. Work, hard work, be there, do what you got to do. And so I had to learn how to step back from that. And even as you mentioned, like pedicures, I remember like growing up thinking like, oh yeah, that's only what so and so does, right? And like, for me, I was getting a pedicure last week, right? Like, right, exactly, right. So I had to recognize that. Look, no, I like my massage. I recognize that help something to be better, and I like travel. I like doing these things because once again, when we're not doing those things of self-care, when we're not recognizing that it helps, when we're not even just getting fresh air, going for a walk, right? When we're not doing those things, I just feel like it's like a tank, and we get full, and then it spills, and it's nasty stuff. It's like it's the way that we talk to people, the way that we come at folks, the way that we treat people. But when we do the self-care, the tank gets really low of that, and it's not full of that nasty stuff. And the other thing is, like, I think that's also the benefit of having models and examples and that we can look to. The NBA and even some of the players I've worked with, like they've really adopted meditation and right. And so when you start to hear, when you know the young fellas start to look at like people that they're looking up to in their old heads, and like they can hear LeBron or whoever is using the app Calm to like meditate and be focused. And like, all right, bet I can do that too. And so I think that's part of it, is knowing that the people we look up to are doing those things for self-care. And that if they're doing it, as well as the dude around the block, as well as my pops and my uncle, we all can do it.
Right. Hey, George, I got a quick question for you. I want to circle back to you talked about having busy schedules, and I guess it goes to prioritizing some of the key strategies we can do to prioritize our busy lives. And you talked about your daughter pretty much coming up to you, checking you. My sons, I have two twin boys, and they're 7 years old. And I used to say, okay, son, 1 second, 1 second. So now they're to the point now where they're saying, hey, Dad, 1 second is over. So now I say, hey, son, give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. Because I'm trying to put together a nice email, and my thought process is just like right there. Yeah. So, I'm trying to figure out if you have any strategies that you could recommend to just kind of prioritize our busy lives or our schedules.
No, I think that's a great example. And I think it just goes back to how we model things, right? Like it's just like some of us, maybe we didn't have that model. We didn't have that example, or the example was horrible. So we really needed to find something else. But for the kids and the folks that we are responsible for, they pay attention to stuff that you don't even realize they're paying attention to. How much is your head down? How long does it take for you to recognize? Did you touch them? Did you hug them? Did you kiss them?
Right.
Any of those things. And so to prioritize, for me personally, I've had to just, and I don't get it right all the time. I'm not trying to paint that picture, right? But there are times where I just have to just turn the phone down or just put it down. And then I'll go right back to it. But then I try. But some of it is just recognizing that, and people have told me this, and I see it more. Like my daughter's 10 and I can blink. I can remember when she was born, right? Like my son is 8 and how quickly it goes. And that there's moments that these moments are the relationships, so that when they are in the teenage years, they still want to mess with me, right? They still want to, right? In their 20s, they still want to like have a relationship with me. And then we could be adults being together. But like if I miss a lot of these moments, it becomes easy for them to want to have those moments someplace else. They're already actually going to do that, but I need to help give them some reasons to at least want to come back.
Right.
That's a part of it, of like, sometimes we just got to say no. Sometimes we got to like do it earlier or later. We need to like, all right, I can hopefully get back to that thought. Maybe say 5 minutes. I say 1 minute. I write down the notes and come back.
I'm glad you said that, because, saying, us being in the pandemic, that we do mimic what we see. And it's funny how when I was real young, I spent a lot of time with my father, and at an adult age, my mother does say, your father used to do that, the exact same thing. And it's like unconsciously, I am my father. So it's like, during this pandemic, you're going to have to watch what you do and watch what you say. around your children, because they are watching and they are learning.
Yes, they are.
And it's like, without a doubt, they will pick the worst thing.
Yes.
So many other things that was good today. You gonna pick right?
stupid.
And they do that day after day. And so, like, I think, like, it's just how we can show up really matters. And like, not only to them, but to their friends, to the cousins, your nephews, your nieces, people around the block. You don't, like, so many people are paying attention. You don't even realize it until they say something like, "Oh, I saw when you did that." Or, I didn't realize you were even paying attention.
Right. George, we want to thank you, man. Is it anything you'd like to highlight, during this conversation that we have, that you'd like to leave the audience with, leave us with, some nuggets that you'd like to leave us with? And also, can you let everyone know, where can they find you? Where can they contact you? Where can they reach you? To schedule with you or to have some conversation with you?
Yeah, first of all, it's definitely been a pleasure, hanging out with you all. And next time I will block off 2 hours so I can be a part of the second part. So if there's ever a chance or opportunity, I'm more than willing to come back, and I'll block off the time appropriately. What I say is that, like, I'm grateful for the opportunity to do the work that I do. I'm fortunate to, as mentioned earlier, not only have my therapy practice where I see people, but I've been fortunate to do stuff through media and really just trying to reach people in a lot of ways. Like, even over the Valentine's Day weekend, I took my date night event that I did live and turned it into a date night box. And that went really well. And so just trying to find creative ways to reach people and impact people. And the best way you can reach me is to go check out my website. It's georgetalks.com. You can also hit me up on social. I have Instagram. I have them all, but mainly Instagram and Twitter. My handle is @GeorgeTalks. You can find me on Facebook because you tagged me. It's George James or Dr. George James. Look, it's been a pleasure. It's been a real good conversation. I know, like, there's so much more that we could get into.
Yeah, right.
And I appreciate you all just for being able to fit me in. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. George.
Thanks, Dr. James, everybody. Licensed marriage family therapist, senior staff therapist, my man, Dr. George James. Love you, man. Appreciate you, man. And thanks for hanging out with the brothers, man. We'll be talking soon, George.
Thank you all.
Thank you, brother.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right.
Dope conversation, fellas. Dope conversation.
Yes.
What's going on, fellas? Hey,
good.
we're gonna go to our segments. Y'all want to get into our segments?
Let's do it.
We got a new segment that's
breathe
coming
a little
up.
bit, man. That was a little intense. Let me breathe a little.
You want to breathe? Nah, man. You want to breathe? You want to take some time to?
Man, you don't give me no halftime or nothing.
Hey, ain't no halftime, brother.
I said halftime, man.
You gotta go to the bathroom.
Prostate is good, brother. I know
That's
you
good.
got your bottle
That's
down
good.
there, Ward.
That's good.
I know you got your bottle. So.
We got a new segment coming up. I'm definitely looking forward to. Fellas, let's go to the segment, man.
Ask the professor.
Wow, that's nice, man. That's my first time taking a look at that one, man.
Ask the professor, baby.
What's going on, man? Our new segment, Ask the Professor, with Professor Kevy Kev. This is a segment that has come up with these guys, man. They some thoughtful dudes, man. They're able to come up with a lot of different things, man. Very creative, man. I love y'all, man. So this Ask the Professor segment is for Professor Kevy Kev, and we get some questions sent in from some fans. And one question that we have is, Kevy Kev, on an adult level, I had a conversation with friends about, I'm not going to say who sent this in. Okay. I had a conversation with friends about dating past 40. How much do you compromise? Do we forgo our initial attraction? Do we take on new relationships with known health issues? What is the total package at this point?
Boom.
Yes. That's what we gotta pull this thing back.
Yeah.
That's why we're asking the professor on this one.
Talk to us, Professor.
Hey, well, let me talk
sir.
to you then. It's the professor. So I hate the word compromise first and foremost, because compromise, it gives you the notion that there's conflict that two people have to settle. And not always is there conflict that you have to settle or come to some type of mediation. Relationships go through changes, go through various ups and downs, but it doesn't necessarily have to be conflictual in order for a compromise. So that's one reason why I want to just throw out the word compromise. Another reason that I want to throw out the word compromise is because it sounds like you have to lower your standards, all right, because you're trying to settle for something that you really don't desire. Y'all feel me on that? So you know when you
say that one more time. Say that one more time.
It feels as if when you are compromising, this is one of the reasons why I want to throw that word out, is because you are lowering your standards to settle for something, catch this, that you necessarily don't desire. All right. So let's just throw that word compromise out. All right. You know, in your 40s now, I'm 48, just hit it. You know, Keith is coming up on it.
Whoa.
Come on, brother. Hey, come on, receive that. So you know that when we come into our 40s, there's some deal breakers in this stage of our life. You know what it is that you want out of a relationship. You know what your expectations are. I don't feel like you need to lower your standards. If the attraction is important to you, if the career that a person has is important to you, if the values and the morals and the ethics that a person has are important to you, don't lower your standard because you're feeling the need to be rushed into something that you really don't desire. All right. Dating in the 40s is a little difficult, it seems, in this day, because number one, we are more settled in our life, more settled in our profession and in our routine. When you're in your 40s, you've accomplished and you've achieved a lot. So in many instances, it's hard to bring someone into something that has already been so well put together, right? You know, rather than in your 20s early on when you are still trying to figure things out, still on your journey, you know, still growing and developing and attempting to mature, you know, at that stage, you're more flexible. All right. More flexible, you know.
Yeah, let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this while you're on your roll. So when you
Arlene,
like 4 questions in one. Come on now, go ahead.
No, because I want to get a better understanding of the word compromise because you threw it out. So when you say compromise so we're talking about compromise and settling. Compromise is equal to settling. That's before a relationship. You're just saying just dating, not within the relationship, right?
Well, when you're in your 40s now, there's a different purpose that comes with dating. In many people, in many relationships, all right? You're really not looking for that one night swing, that one night stand, or just a hop in the bed.
Right.
All right. While there might be some that are just satisfied with that, at 40, you may be looking for someone that you can partner with. You're in the 20s, early 30s.
Right.
It was a run for your money.
And we talking about in our 40s, compromise about dating.
Right. So we're in our 40s now. You should be at a level of maturity that you had not attained in your 20s. All right. So your desire and your search for a mate or someone that you can share an extensive amount of time, it should have shifted by now. In your 40s. So compromising at this stage in your life when you've achieved and accumulated and obtained so much in your professional ministry goals, whatever it is that you are good at now, you know, to compromise, to me, it feels like that you just want to lower your standards. The standards that not only you have for yourself, expectations you have for yourself, but for that other person as well that you may want to invite into your world. So no, don't compromise. Don't lower your standards. Keep your standards high. Keep your expectations high. You know, and you brought up the issue of if someone has health issues, in the relationship. Should we take that into consideration? All right. You in your 40s, you know what you're capable of. You know what your capacity is to give and to love in your 40s. You have to make the decision whether or not you have the time and the capacity to be a caretaker and love that person while they are dealing with some underlying medical condition, or if you're in the space that you are right now that you don't and you do not want to have that type of relationship where you not only got to be lover but caregiver as well. You know what you're able to do. You know what your capacity is, and you know what type of burden that you can bear. Only you know that. So you got to make the decision whether or not you want to be able to caregive or just want to be a lover. All right. And partner with somebody.
Gotcha.
And the last piece of that, as well, as much as the expectations that we might have on the other person, you know, the standards that we have for other people, you got to remember that that same person has standards that apply to you as well. All right. So you got to be able to be flexible. All right. With understanding that this person is also inviting you into their life. All right. They are inviting you into their time. And you got to be, what? Do they mean erect? Oh,
come on, Arlene.
Arlene crazy. Crazy.
Listen, we got to connect.
They make medication for that.
There's a connect somewhere that might be able to get some pills for that.
Thanks for watching, Arlene.
Thanks for watching, Arlene. Yeah. All right. But you know what you can handle. You know what your needs are. That's why I brought the point. Right. What is your capacity for a person? You know, that's why in our 40s, we got to be on the table, transparent with what we want. We ain't got no time for no games and to play. You tell me what it is. You tell me what you want. You tell me about what's going on with you that I need to know before I invest the latter half of my life with you. You know what I'm saying? But just to keep in mind, my last point, the other person also has standards and expectations as well. So there may be a degree of change and flexibility that you may need to have within yourself. So you have to expect that in some manner, shape, or form that you need to be flexible. You need to be open to some of the differences that the potential relationship may offer you. All right. Don't be scared of it. Don't run away from it. Don't fight against it. Embrace the changes that someone could be able to offer you in your 40s. And that's the professor right there, baby.
That's the professor. Yeah, Professor Kevin Kev with Ask the Professor segment. If you got any questions that you want to ask, we definitely don't have to say your name. Send them to Just Our Thoughts, DM to Just Our Thoughts, or DM Kevin Kev these questions. That's just
on Facebook.
Is flexibility the same as compromise?
Nope. Not at all.
No?
Not at all, baby. Compromise, again, let me define it for you. Can I go into it again, Keith, if that's all right?
Go ahead, brother.
With compromise, in my understanding of it, it's when you are lowering your standards and expectations, your values. This, in many instances, in compromise, it also entails putting your goals and your achievements on the back burner in order for someone else to have a sense of furthering their life and their goals. All right. That's happened in a lot of different relationships. All right. For one reason or another. And while there may be degrees of that may happen in certain instances, in this stage of our life, there should be a level of flexibility, not putting off or lowering, but flexible in understanding. Here's what I'm talking about, Wardy. Pay attention. The uniqueness of an individual. Pay attention.
Go ahead, brothers.
Hey, wait a minute, Keith. Put the big screen on me for a second. Put the big screen on me.
Yo, I got a question.
Put the big screen on me, man.
I can't.
Wardy, I want Wardy to understand that
I'm listening. Go ahead, brother.
Uniqueness and a distinction. There's a different characteristic that a relationship may offer you. So have an open mind, be flexible to the uniqueness that a relationship can offer into your life. All right. Open the door because love wants to come in. What you got, Keith? What you got?
Well, no, I have a question on compromise and flexibility, because the idea that I have with compromise is you have two people that's in a relationship, and part of the healthy aspect of the relationship comes with compromise. So, for example, if Camilla is not a runner, but she wants to become, I don't know, a distance runner or something, and I'm not a weightlifter, the compromise is that we somehow come together and we're working out a couple days a week where we're doing cardio, a couple days a week. She's, what I mean? And I feel like that's a compromise. And I don't know if it's flexibility. Go ahead, talk to me, Professor Kevin.
Well, with that example compromise that you gave, with compromise, many of these things hinge on if the relationship is going to work. All right.
And that's why I asked earlier.
People talk about, I need to compromise because if we don't, the relationship is just not going to work. Your example about, running and training and changing different little routines of exercise, that's nothing that the relationship hinges on.
Compromise, though, isn't it?
It's nothing. What I'm talking about is something that the relationship hinges on if we don't come to some type of resolution. This is what we're dealing with.
Okay, I see you talking about heavy stuff.
You need to be flexible in the different exercise routines that Camilla wants versus you. That's flexibility. That's not compromise.
I feel like it's compromise.
Compromise really deals with what may make or break a relationship. All right. Putting my goals off for someone else or lowering my standards. What's your standard?
I don't know if compromise equates lowering standards.
It does. Look at the definition of it. Compromise has to do with lowering your standards for something that's less desirable. Look it up. Google it.
There's another word we could use. I think there's another word we could use, and that word could be deal breaker, especially if it's in the
That's what I brought out. That's what I brought out. I brought that out. In
the beginning of a relationship, it could be considered a deal breaker. Like, hey, can I go forward with this?
Thank you, Donald.
That's Big Bro right there.
Yeah.
What's up, Donald? Or is this a deal breaker?
Somebody out there is agreeing with me.
No, I'm sure you got a lot of people agreeing with you. That's what I'm asking, Big Bro Don.
That's why I'm throwing out compromise. In this instance, because you're trying to introduce relationships into your life in your 40s. All right. That means you haven't really yet entered into the long-term relationship. All right. So don't think about compromise.
So that's what I'm saying. Dating, when I asked the question earlier, in that dating aspect of it, I got you.
Yeah. So the example you used, Keith, was being flexible to the uniqueness that the other one brings. She, introducing you to more weightlifting versus the cardio that you do. Introducing different foods from a different ethnic group that you might not have tasted before.
That's being flexible.
All right. Here's what I can say that might clear up, because I kind of see where
I'm sorry if I'm confusing.
No. I see where you're going.
No, you we having a conversation.
No. Here's basically what he's probably trying to say, that some of us aren't getting.
Who's trying to say? Who?
That you're trying to say, KD, that being compromising means you're conceding. Flexible means you're bending without breaking. So it's like you're kind of like, in some people's eyes, being flexible is compromising, but the actual word of the compromise is to concede. So
that's a synonym that you're using.
Right.
You got a synonym, but I kind of broke down the word compromise for you. Again, you got a certain type of woman that that will benefit your life. Right. You have a standard for that specific type of woman, or at least we should at this stage. I know I do, and I feel that the one that I have right now meets the standard that that has proven the longevity that I have right now in the marriage. But you know what your standards are when it comes to a relationship that is going to be healthy for you, that's going to be happy for you, and that will have some longevity for you. All right. But the part of flexibility that I brought in is that both you and her will be different and distinct. Be open to the uniqueness that one can bring into your life instead of resisting it or seeing it as something that's foreign or alien, or be closed-minded that I don't want to try it. That's not compromise.
No, it's
compromise is
bending
what
without
the
breaking.
relationship may hinge on. All right. And it's too early in that dating stage in order to say this is going to make a break.
Right.
That is true.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Ask the professor again, man.
Again, thanks, Kevy Kev. Ask the professor. Send your questions to Just Our Thoughts in our DM. DM the professor Kevy Kev on Facebook. Let's get to another.
Says she don't like cats. Tamika Wilcox. Oh my gosh, I hate cats.
I'm not big on them either at all. Let's get to our other segment.
Shopping bags, they way down her arm.
What up, fellas? Funny. It's funny how today's man law is actually in the title. It's ridiculous. I never even paid attention to it that much. But today's man law, we're going with man law number 6. Bathroom etiquette number 2. Yeah, I touched on a bathroom etiquette before.
Right.
We're gonna go a little bit further. Man shall not hold conversation while using the urinal. Keep eyes focused forward, pick a spot on the wall, and concentrate. Because I know I'm pretty sure you've been in the bath, especially you go to public bathroom and it do want to, it ain't really none of us, but somebody do what, hey, how's it going? Dude, leave me alone.
I ain't got no time to talk.
Yeah, I ain't got, I'm handling my business. You handle yours, and we good.
Don't be peeking over. Hey, listen, you ever remember that? What commercial was that? Was that a Geico commercial? When the guy, all those urinals, man, and the guy, he comes right next to the guy. Man.
Like, yo, dude, give me my personal space.
Oh my gosh, it's the worst. And I've been in the bathroom, man. Deptford Mall. I remember going to the restroom, man, at a urinal, and a guy said something to me about. I forgot, he was trying to it was small talk, trying to start up a conversation. Small talk. And for me, I'm sitting there and I wanted to say something to this dude, but just like your man law, I can't talk. Like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to say anything.
Right.
So I just kept looking straight. I just looked at him and I turned my head and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I don't even want to say nothing to this cat. Like, yo, you breaking all laws right now.
Yeah.
This is not what we're doing right now.
Violation. Straight violation.
Oh, man.
Crazy.
Alyssa says, man shall not hold conversation while using the urinal. Ward's law.
That's right.
Hey, that should be in Ecclesiastics, man. That should be.
No, that's Leviticus. That's one of God's.
Leviticus. Man, fellas, we had a great conversation. For those that's just joining us and that's going to catch us on repeat. Just write in there replay, #replay. Check us out. We talked with Dr. George James about relationships during this quarantine. What relationships look like, what things will look like during in the next couple of years dealing with mental health. We've also discussed on men and our relationships, the circle that we have, and tapping into self-care and what that looks like for men. So if you can, go to our Just Our Thoughts YouTube page and check that out. Go to our Just Our Thoughts Facebook page, check that out, subscribe and like. We'll be back in 2 weeks with the fellas, where we have some core conversations. Next week, the fellas ready to just pour this thing out, open up, be transparent, and have some good conversations. So if you can, share this with your friends, Share this with your friends. Share this with your friends. Come back.
Share it.
We appreciate everybody that's joining us right now. Those that support us, we love you. We love you. We love you. And don't forget, beat Professor Kevy Kev's DM up with these questions. For Professor Kevy Kev.
You got questions, I got answers.
Let's go watch some basketball.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Who y'all got tonight?
Baylor, man.
No, you go with Baylor?
I think
they're gonna be.
I'll just go watch.
Yeah,
I really don't care. I really don't care.
This is Just Our Thoughts with the Fellas. Thanks for joining us. Peace.
Peace.